Welcome to Building My Legacy podcast. This podcast is designed for leaders and entrepreneurs who want to leave a legacy and will provide strategies that focus upon key elements for legacy creation, determining your desired impact and its benefit, increasing your legacy's reach by engaging key stakeholders, planning, prioritizing, and executing. Here's your host, Dr. Lois Sonstegard.
Welcome, everybody, to today's Building My Legacy podcast. I have with me today Charley Mann. He is with Great Legal Marketing, which is a marketing company for attorneys. So, Charley, we don't think very often of attorneys needing to build their practice or needing digital marketing. So tell me, how did you get into this and why attorneys for marketing?
You know, it's funny, Lois. It's kind of a circuitous path that leads us here today because actually in college, I was a theater major. So I was a budding young actor and director. I actually did some semi-professional work in the Washington, D.C. area where I'm still located today. But for me, there was a more important guiding star in life, which is that I really wanted to be a husband and father. I wanted to have a great family because that's the example that I grew up with. Now, the other example that I grew up with was my dad was an FBI agent. My mom was a teacher, and entrepreneurship, small business ownership, et cetera, were not really part of the equation for us. We were sort of taught, hey, get a college degree and find a good job. And I sort of wasn't hardwired that way, or it just wasn't the way that I happened to be brought up. So I looked around for interesting opportunities, and there was this one with this guy, Ben Glass, who was running this company, Great Legal Marketing. And I knew that for me, autonomy was a high value trait, and I really wanted to learn a skill that could take me far in life. And fortunately, Ben was looking for someone who was just eager to learn, that he could mold, and I was that person. And so over the last almost exactly 11 years now, I have been alongside Ben from working in his law firm to answering the phones in his law firm to doing the marketing to now coaching attorneys as private clients in our mastermind program and in our large group coaching, over 1,000 attorneys on how to take what I saw happen in his practice and grow their own firms in a big, big way. So weird way to land here, but it's almost like the working with attorneys is how I satiate the objective of autonomy to the benefit of my loved ones, which is my big driving purpose.
Wow, that's great. That's really great. So let me ask you, you talk about doing a health check. So one of the places that you begin with your law firms is to look at doing a health check. What is that? How do you go about doing it, and why?
So the main number that we use in the health check is revenue per employee. And by using this number, I can kind of check in with the business as a whole. I can almost know the emotional state of the owner just by knowing the revenue per employee. And so this number includes the actual owner of the law firm as well. So let me kind of build how do we get this number, right? It's total revenue, usually revenue on the year, right? Divided by the total number of employees. So if you have 2 employees who are doing 20 hours each, that's a full 1. If you have someone who's doing 30 hours a week, that's a 0.75. The owner counts as a full employee. So it might be someone who's, say, doing $500,000 with 4 employees. That's going to be $125,000 per employee, assuming the owner's one of them. And so by using this number, and I'll give the core example, which is a lot of our law firm members are $500,000 to about $3 million in revenue per year. And in that range, I want to see them doing $125,000 to $175,000 per employee. So an average of $150,000. And by using this number, if I see that, say, and I've encountered this, Lois, a law firm that was doing $1 million a year had 10 employees. So easy math for us, fortunately, $100,000 per employee. I know that law firm owner is stressed. They are not bringing home the money that they expected to be bringing home. Their profit margins are really slim. They can't figure out, why is my business not growing? Well, it's because you're already stretched way too thin. There's no revenue that you can reinvest into the practice because you actually have to eat, right? Get some business owner, and you want to eat at some point. And so when I perform this health check, I know that even on the other end as well, let's say that you're at $1 million and you only have 4 employees. That's $250,000 per employee. And you're stressed as well at that point because you're wondering why your practice can't grow. Well, it's because you now have built a practice that is very profitable, yes, but it probably relies on your time to consistently produce that profit, that revenue. And you need to staff up at that point so that way you can stop coupling your time as the owner to the revenue that is brought into the firm. So that's how we use that health check to diagnose what needs to be fixed. And I think very few business owners, because it doesn't have to just be law firms. And by the way that I got to this was I first started doing research outside of the industry and then brought it inside of the industry, right? I started looking at, if you invest in stocks, sometimes you can see revenue per employee. And you have these oil companies that do like $1 million or $2 million per employee. I was looking at it, I was like, what would that look like inside a law firm? And then I started gathering revenue numbers and employee counts and constructed these numbers over time. And it just tells you so much so early on. And it's a guiding light of when to hire, when not to hire, when are you efficient, when are you inefficient, et cetera.
So when you have a situation where, let's take your example of $1 million, 10 employees, 100,000 apiece, you're underperforming basically. So what do you do with that?
Sure. So if we're coming in, and we're looking at the practice, if I see that, I immediately want to know what are the key performance indicators, the KPIs being used on the employees. And usually at that point, I can already guess there are none, or they're really, really low, or the worst case scenario, there's like 1 or 2 employees in the whole company who have KPIs, and the rest of people are just under this big, broad label of support staff. And we have to look at what the actual performance is of employees. And the guarantee that I give is we will fire 2 people. That's going to happen because we have to alleviate the pressure here before we can talk about growth. We have to redesignate some of the responsibilities of those employees to other people, because I am certain that your other employees are not at full capacity either. And Lois, you've probably seen this with other business owners. They hire too far ahead of schedule, and they want their capacity to be greater than it is in the business, and they're afraid of getting rid of those people that they've onboarded because they get emotionally tied to them. They feel responsible for them, but you're doing a disservice to everyone else in the business who now can no longer grow their own income within the business because you've got this extra bloat in the practice.
I think that's one of the hardest things to recognize is that actually it's a gift to call out whatever it is that's deterring you from your success, because in the end, everybody suffers. It's a great point. So you also talk about what are the natural growth barriers that legal practices need to overcome. What are natural barriers that people need to overcome?
So the number one barrier for law firm owners is the belief that I, the owner, have to be the one to do it. And what I usually mean by that is, in particular, the legal service. So this is in the product world where we're selling vacuum cleaners. We know that I can't be the one building all of the vacuum cleaners. I design the vacuum cleaner. It gets manufactured and sold. But lawyers have this weird space, and it's true of all professional services, financial advisors, doctors, lawyers, etc., where they came out of school with to paraphrase the Liam Neeson from Taken, with a unique set of skills. And those skills translate into dollars, right? Their hours can be traded for dollars because a lawyer is the product. And so they tend to build a practice that is around them being more and more and more of the product, rather than looking at the business as a whole and saying, how can I have others deliver a product that I oversee quality control on, that I oversee the systems and the standards, but it no longer has to be me, Charlie, delivering the product, you, Lois, delivering the product. That's our first hurdle that we have to leap over, is getting out of our minds that I'm the only one who can do this. To really get kind of granular with it, for estate planners, for example, they often think like, oh, well, the clients want to see me at what is called the signing meeting, which you see it in real estate as well, right? It's the meeting after the paperwork has been taken care of and you're going in just to sign on, have it explained to you and signed on the dotted lines. And if I can get an estate planning attorney to just let someone else handle those signing meetings, I'm going to free up tons of time for them to focus on business development and push them farther and farther into business development. It's going to guarantee a win right there. So that's one of the natural growth barriers, is that tying in of I'm the product, so it has to be me doing it all the time. I think I'm the best at it. And no, there are other people who are really good at trial law. There are other people who are really good at estate planning and the paperwork and the drafting up of those documents. You don't have to be coupled with all of that stuff. Then the other growth barrier, it's interesting, Lois, it happens right around the $1 million revenue mark. And what it is it's moving from, I have a business family. You have maybe 5 employees. You're really close with each one of them. So you have your business family, to now I have a corporate entity. I have a business entity where I'm instilling things like key performance indicators. I am hiring not just for someone who I like, but someone who's going to fill this very specific position for me and is going to be tracked on their performance. And if they underperform, I'm going to turn that position over. Again, going to the viewing this as a way to achieve a bigger goal. Rather than running this family, you now have a corporation. And that's really, really hard. That switch, because when you tie that into the whole Atticus Finch mindset that lives in the back of an attorney's head, where they're really there, Lois, they're there to do good. That's what they came into the law to do. Only a few ever come into it thinking to themselves, this is a great way for me to open up a high profit business. Most of them, I'm going to do good. I'm going to live my Atticus Finch dream in the back of my head. And when we can get them to view it as the bigger your business grows, the more people will actually be positively affected by you, but you can't be the one doing it all the time. Going back to that first point, you have to set the standards, create the system, and oversee that system. And you will actually do more good for yourself, for your family, for your community, and for your clients when you manage to view it that way as a true business entity.
I think that is one of the most difficult shifts for business owners generally.
Absolutely.
Because you get so used to your survival, your ability to thrive is your holding on as tight as you can. And when you open your hands, you're afraid it's going to be like sand falling through, right?
Yes.
And so it's that control part that I think drives us. And I think as soon as you become aware that systems can replace that need, that's a major mindset shift that I think begins to take place. So one of the things that you talk about is personal growth that attorneys need to make if they're going to grow. What's that personal growth that they need, and what is it that prevents them from getting there?
So there's a lot of fear components, and this is past law firm owners. This is all business owners. And this, by the way, is why we have tools like that health check, that revenue per employee, because it can help with the very customary fear moments that come when you have a growing enterprise. And what you see is there's a part of you that knows that your future is much brighter, that there's greater cash flow ahead of you because that's what you're building, but it's not here yet. And you get to this chicken or the egg scenario of, I want to hire someone now for what is about to happen, but I also don't have that future revenue to hire that person now. And that big fear moment, that ability to have such deep faith in yourself and understand that we only get this one time through our life. We only get to go through this one time. And you only have this one opportunity to take that leap of faith. And if you have your system set, and if you work with numbers like revenue per employee, and you have a process to hit your outcome, you have to trust that process at times. We just had so we have what we call our accelerated groups, Lois, and these are our mastermind programs. And one of our members who's down in Louisiana, he was speaking about the idea of trust the process. So he's growing his practice up to the $1 million mark right now. And it's he knows that there are certain things he has to do. Sometimes he's scared of them, but he just has to trust the process. Because look, let's be honest. In many ways, business as a category, growing a business, growing a law firm, it's almost a solved problem. There are certain marketing strategies you can use. There are efficient business operations you can use. The only major variable that affects our businesses, our practices, are the people. Because it's so fascinating, Lois. Human beings are irrational. From a base state, we are irrational. And I love this. So my brother, I acknowledge my irrationality and my emotionality. My brother is at the other end of the spectrum. He happens to work for me. I'm in marketing. He's the finance guy. And he sees a lot of this as like, oh, people will try and make rational decisions. And I always explain to him, when someone makes what they call a rational decision, what they are doing is displaying the emotion of desiring superiority for making a quote unquote rational decision. But the truth is, they're trying to make as rational a decision as possible because of the emotional tie to that. We are all radically irrational. So when you add that human component into these systems, that's why it becomes a leap of faith. It becomes these moments of overcoming fear. It's why a lot of the best work that we do for our members, Lois, is what's between the ears. Yes, we can teach you Facebook advertising. Yes, we can show you better Google ads and local service ads and better website development and referral letters and phone scripting systems and all this other stuff that we have in membership. But until I solve what's between the ears and find out what has held you back, what scar tissue exists for you emotionally, there's a barrier ahead of you. And that is your greatest obstacle. That and truly knowing what you want in life. What is the outcome you really want? And it's not just a number. It's not just how much money am I going to make. It's not just how much money Lois takes home at the end of the year. It's what is your lifestyle? Are you living a way that is intentional? Are you spending the time you want with your family? Are you engaging in the hobbies that you really want? Are you designing for a future where you want that vacation home? Great. Let's start building for that future of having that vacation home now. Not 10 years from now, but today we need to start making decisions as though that vacation home already exists and we're about to purchase it. And when you live with that outcome orientation, that level of intention and that willingness to conquer those obstacles because of your intentions, that's the transformative process. That's the coming out of the cocoon type of moment.
You talk about the mastermind groups that you have for attorneys. Talk a little bit about that and how that serves your attorneys, because attorneys are not emotive people by and large.
You know what? Until you get them into a room with other attorneys, then you see all kinds of, you see joy, you see sadness, you see outright exuberance, you see fear, you see all of it. We're very accustomed to the attorney who is in the courtroom, who obviously has to present the rational argument in order to make the case. We see them on TV and all these other representations, but let's demystify attorneys for everyone, Lois. They are humans. They are humans who have a particular skill set that is of high value, the same way that you, Lois, are a human being who has a skill set of particular value. It's just lawyers get a degree of recognition. They have the JD or the Esquire at the end of their name. But for this mastermind program, what we call our accelerator programs, and if anyone hasn't experienced a mastermind, let me just say you should. Everyone should participate in a mastermind group, because what it is, it's coming together with peers who are solving challenges like yours, who should provide you two key things. One, collective wisdom. When you put a bunch of people together who are building businesses or are trying to achieve similar life goals, inevitably they have solved some type of problem that you have, and you've solved some type of problem that they have. And there's a beautiful give and take within a mastermind group of people empowering each other and getting from the group answers to questions that maybe they didn't even know that they had until it's presented then. So you have collective wisdom. Then the other key component is accountability. When you have a group that you're saying in front of, you know what, before the next meeting, I'm going to hire a new attorney. And you get to that next meeting, they're going to ask you, hey, how's that new attorney working out? And you're kept accountable to it, because most of us make these decisions in like a dark room, just ourselves. It's 9 p.m. You're lying in bed. I mean, I go to bed early. So 9 p.m. I'm lying in bed and I'm thinking to myself, yeah, I'm going to work out tomorrow. Or yeah, this is going to be the marketing system we're going to implement, personal or professional goals. But if I don't have a greater level of accountability, I can hide it, right? I can just, if no one else knows what I was supposed to do, I don't have to have done it at the end of the day. So that's what a mastermind group like ours, the accelerated programs, provides, is collective wisdom and accountability. I mean, look, there are all the other details, the intimate communications, the sharing of resources and everything. But at the end of the day, those two components, those are the drivers of success in a mastermind group.
So when you do a mastermind group, do they go on into perpetuity? Are they time limited? How do you structure your mastermind groups?
So it's a year-long commitment up front, and then it's in perpetuity. I mean, we've had people who have been members of our mastermind groups for 10 plus years now. We've watched people grow practices where they started with us at $1 million and then exited the group because they were partially exiting their own practice with over $15 million in annual revenue. That was a 10-year transformation, right? Sometimes business takes a while. We don't all magically grow it overnight. No one's an overnight success. There's always a big, long story behind it. But then they tend to work with us long-term because our mastermind group is about the total growth of the business. It's not, hey, we're running challenges, and this is a mastermind group about running challenges in your business, or this is a mastermind group about Facebook ads. We are holistic in our approach and our niche being law firm owners, but the full scale of growth, because I've helped so many law firm owners, and Ben has helped so many law firm owners grow their law firms, that we know that it's not just one thing. And it's great. So Michael Koenig in his book, Ruthless Consistency, talks about it's not one thing. It's not just marketing. It's not just operations. It's not just finance. It's not just hiring. It's all of that stuff put together that makes the real impact. Now, most quote unquote gurus out there try and sell us on, all you need to do is run Facebook ads and it'll be okay. Everything's going to be fine. Okay, well, that's not true. That's a useful tool to achieve an outcome. But what does the full business look like? And that's what we specialize in the totality of it.
It's so true. And I think that is partly where the confusion comes for a lot of people, is there's so many loud voices out there that say, just do this one thing and we've solved your problems for life, and you invest in it, right? And then you try it and you go, wow, not only did it not work, but I'm worse off because I just spent money on something that's not working. So I think part of the issue is people become a little disillusioned as to where to go. So given that, what would you say people should look for in a consultant, somebody that will help them to grow their business? What are the values, the characteristics? What is it that absolutely should be there? What should not be there?
So this is a great question, especially, so you use the word consultant, and it's funny, I just shot a video about this, Lois, about what is the difference between a coach and a consultant. So it's first, what's the need that you have? So if right now in your law firm, for example, your phones are being answered really poorly and you're losing a lot of people converting into appointments on phones, you probably need a consultant to come in and fix the phones. Now, if you're looking for your long-term growth, and especially you as a leader developing, as a business owner, as really a business development person growing, you probably need a coach, which is an ongoing relationship. So, we do a lot of coaching with some consulting within it. And what you should look for in a good coach or consultant, aside from the usual, prior experience and stuff, that's all helpful. But what you really want is you want someone who can provide both a balance of asking tremendously powerful questions, because, right, that's what a great coach can do, is they ask tremendously powerful questions, and someone who can bring to the table knowledge of working with previous businesses that can also deliver solutions. So I often see with coaches, they tend to fall dramatically on one side or the other. They get on a call, say, with a client, and they just say, here's exactly what you should do, Lois. Only do this. I'm just providing you with the solutions. I don't want to hear anything else. Just do this stuff. And obviously we get disillusioned with that very quickly because it doesn't feel like something that fits us as the client. Or you have the other person who only ever asks questions, and it starts to feel to the person receiving the coaching like, well, I need a firmer footing to step on here. And so having a good balance of that, and that comes usually from someone who has been within the industry for a while, who knows the terminology, But also, I wouldn't say to anyone, like, if you hire a law firm coach, it has to be someone who's owned a law firm, or it has to be a previous lawyer, or someone who has coached law firms specifically. You want to find someone who communicates well with you. And actually, you know what, Lois? I think the number one thing about a great coach is their vision of your future should be even brighter than yours. That would be the number one thing.
You know what? I think that's an incredible insight to share. And our time is almost up, Charley. So before we let it totally slip by, anything we've missed out that is really important for our audience to hear?
You know, I'll end it on refocusing on the idea of outcome, of really, more than anything else, you as a business owner, decide what you want, but don't decide it based on your current limitations. Don't decide it based on the number of clients you're getting today, the number of people you have today, the amount of dollars in the bank today. Decide overall, if we set aside all of our current circumstances, what you want your life to look like. And when you start from that point and you start with the utmost confidence, knowing that you can get there, you will be able to fill in the rest of the gaps there. You will be able to find the processes that drive to the outcome. And that is so powerful and not at all taught in schools these days. So that's that final bit of advice, is re-honing in on determine what your outcome will be, not what you want it to be, but what it will be, and build from there.
I love that perspective. Look at what it will be, your outcome, and then build from there. So for those of you who are listening, there will be information about Charley in the show notes and his company. So please feel free to connect with him and receive any consulting coaching that you need from Charley and all of his incredible experience with especially the legal business. So Charley, thank you so much for being with us on Building My Legacy podcast today.
Thank you, Lois. This has been fantastic. I appreciate this time.
You are so welcome. And please remember, those of you who are listening, to visit our website at buildtomorrow.com and our social media sites as well. Thank you very much.
You've been listening to Building My Legacy podcast with Dr. Lois Sonstegard. To book your appointment with Dr. Sonstegard, visit www.buildtomorrow.com.